We laughed, we cried, and I'm sure we all thoroughly enjoyed the final Grand Tour One for the Road. Thankfully, Richard has picked up numerous pieces of Grand Tour history over the years and has kept them here in his barn. And true to form, he has rescued his latest companion, the Zimbabwe Ford Capri GXL, Richard Hammond's last Grand Tour car. In this video, we'll look over its scars, its mediocre repairs, and we'll see if it'll start up after its long adventure back from Africa. For a certain generation, let's call them boomers, the Ford Capri is a proper hero car. Horrific haircuts, leather jackets, unnecessarily dangerous driving, all of those come together to form the vibe of the average 70s Capri owner. Now, I've tried to research this, but it's quite complicated to decipher the world of the GXL versus the GT. But as far as I'm aware, there's no performance difference, it's purely a trim level battle. Proper Ford nerd stuff. This Capri's actually been hanging around the Hereford and Ross and Wye area since the start of the year. We've actually had to avoid shooting it on numerous DriveTribe videos to not give it away. It sat in and around the smallest cog in the courtyard because it will have been in and out of HMS Engineering. They're Richard's next door neighbours, and pretty much every Grand Tour car that has really extreme modifications made to it ends up in HMS Engineering to perform those mods. For example, if you want to turn a Ford Capri into a train. Richard explains in the special that his first car was nearly a Capri, advertised in the local paper when he worked in a petrol station. It sadly turned out to be a stolen example, so he got a Toyota Corolla instead. Imagine how cool he would have looked as a young man driving about in one of these. I'd hate to imagine how cheap that car would have been back in the day in that newspaper, considering this car set Richard back 25 grand earlier this year. This Capri was in really good nick when we first saw it, just like the Buick Riviera from lockdown, but my God, these journeys do not take any prisoners, poor thing. It almost doesn't matter how nice your car starts for the Grand Tour, it comes back needing effectively a full restoration. Just looking down this one side here, there's some big scratches at the rear here. There's scratches all down the length of the car, just rubbing up against all those African bushes. This chrome is, yeah, that's about to fall off at any moment. The door, so the doors have been put back in place, but it doesn't look aligned at all. I don't even know whether I should open this or not. Oh, okay. That has dropped a full 2 inches. This might sound horrific. Yeah, some paint definitely came off there. There's some yellow paint on the floor there. Yeah, I don't think those bolts are as tight as they should be. Is this gonna close okay? Yeah, good. Perfect condition. Front wings, looks like there's something missing here. There's definitely holes in there. I don't know if that's for mud flaps or whatever. They're not there. This bit of chrome is actually looking okay. It all seems to have happened at the rear. And then at the front, we're clearly missing a bumper. The underside will almost certainly be buggered after the low ground clearance issues. And watching some of the potholes Richard drove through, I imagine plenty of bushes and ball joints need to be replaced. Thankfully, none of the cars got as badly bruised and frankly ruined like the ones in Sandjob. As we showed in a video earlier this year, the Aston is not in great shape at all, and it can be seen in the DriveTribe exhibition in its current condition at the Haynes Motor Museum. The component on the car that caused Richard the most grief the entire trip was the Capri's exhaust. Now, he's clearly got rid of the side exits that sounded amazing. The question is this the original one or the gift he got from James and Jeremy? It looks pretty mint. So I'm gonna say that was the final one that was fitted sort of 2/3 the way through the episode. It's not bent, looks okay. Another major issue with the car were the rear shocks. Let's see if those holes actually exist. Oh my. Yeah, Richard was not fibbing there. The shock absorber has punched, not just a hole, I mean that is a cave in the body of the car, right up into the wheel arch. gaping right through to the chassis. That is quite alarming. That must have been loud. It's gone both sides. It's scraped away all the stone chip on the right-hand side. It's not gone completely through, but that is brutal. I've checked on the other side. That one was completely fine, but yeah, that is rough. So there's been a new shock absorber put in, but yeah, if Richard wanted to drive this about, he'd definitely need to get a rear arch repair going. Something you cannot miss is this rear wing. I must say, I think I very much preferred the Richard Grant full-size one, and sadly you can see the holes that have just been punctured into the boot here. But currently we've got this. The question is it actually silver? The thing is, silver isn't magnetic, so got this bad boy, and let's see what it sticks to. Just to test that this works, there's a bolt here. Yep, it works. Let's start with the end plate here. Okay. It's not magnetic, but I mean, it just looks like it's been painted in silver. Is that actual silver? Or is that just Halford spray paint? The actual bulk of the wing itself? It's not magnetic again. So it could be solid silver, or at least coated in silver, but there's a sort of lacquer going on here that's just peeling off. Yeah, I think there might be some poetic license with this. This isn't the only thing I can test with my magnet in here, because this isn't the only final Grand Tour car in this barn. Some of you guys may have spotted it in the back of shot. Over there is James's Stag. James has actually been speaking to us about creating content with the Stag, taking it to the cog and getting some work done. But until then, let's test that steering wheel. So again, if it magnetizes, it's not silver. If it doesn't magnetize, it could be silver. Let's try the rim of the wheel. No, that could be silver. Okay, so the spokes are not silver. What about the center? No, that doesn't either. So there's a potential that steering wheel does have some silver coating on it potentially, or pewter, or Halford spray paint. Who knows? The Ford Essex V6, 3 litres, 140 brake horsepower. Although I guess back in the 70s, Americans were getting that out of their V8s, so this thing isn't that bad. I've never driven a car with an Essex V6, but my God, did it sound good coming out of those side exits in the show. Now, I'll admit, I don't really know Capris because they're kind of before my time, but I gather people laud after the 2.8 injection, which I see is the one with the stickers down the side from the 80s, rather than the 3 litre Mark 1. Hopefully, all of those little issues have been sorted. Will it start? This door is slightly better installed than the one on that side, although it's got me thinking, should this car just continue for the rest of its days with the doors off? There's something super iconic about that image of the 3 guys going across the salt flats with the doors off, their bandanas in place. Now that they're back on, it's almost slightly disappointing. It's almost like when you're at the end of a wedding and you've ended up with your tie around your head. Sort of, you know, just doing it for the boys. Seems a bit off. Anyway, leave that up to Richard. Let's have a look inside, see if there's any Grand Tour artifacts. It's a funny little seat he's put in here. It's super raked back and it's so tight. Like not just hugging my hips, like digging into them. And I imagine Richard, it's kind of similar dimensions. Can't imagine this was that comfy going across Zimbabwe. What else have we got in here? An empty packet of Twiglets, oven-baked, not fried. Binoculars that are broken. I imagine they were looking at elephants and hippos at some point, but they've taken a bit of a hammering. Trim everywhere. That'll be the camera guys ripping out all of this to get the cameras in there. It is super dusty. It's just like the Aston. Why do they always end up in deserts, and particularly salty deserts? There's screws and bolts in here that are literally encrusted in salt. Just imagine what that is currently doing to the rest of this car. Ugh. And Capris don't exactly have the best reputation in the rust stakes. Right, I've got the keys. Let's see if she'll fire up. Is that Capri a she? I think so. Okay, we've got ignition, so the battery's doing summit. Will it start? Oh! And immediately idles. What a honey! Well done, Richard. You seem to have bought quite a decent car here. Oh! Yep, that's quite beefy. I kind of get the Capri thing now. One more. Yeah, not bad. Richard and I have been chatting recently about the plan for this car. After he drove Izzy's track-prepped Mini Cooper S, he wants this to be quite a similar thing. So he wants this car to stay road legal, but he wants to be able to take it to a track and be able to drive it around all day without any major issues. So that's going to mean engine, suspension and brake upgrades to start with, as well as some safety bits and pieces to make this thing genuinely trackable. So there's no pressure to keep this thing in its exact Grand Tour condition when it came off the boat. No, we can crack on making this thing a bit of a weapon. To kick things off, the first thing it needs and deserves is a good bath. We've swung in our channel sponsor Technic to undesert the Capri. Starting with the wheels, applying iron and fallout remover to search out all of the crud accumulated from the journey. The Capri was then all soaped up with W4 citrus foam. Unlike traditional soap foams that this car may have experienced in the past that have sketchy chemicals, this foam is a pH neutral formula that removes the worst grime without damaging any coatings already on the car. After a rinse, on goes some G-Wash. This stuff cuts through the toughest grime fast, perfect for getting rid of that African dirt. Despite the state of the Capri, Technic Dom still makes sure to use a Technic wash mitt and 3 buckets with dirt traps to look after the bodywork as best as possible. A final rinse later, and we finish up with some C2 ceramic sealant spray, which can help repel dirt and UV, keeping Richard's car cleaner for longer. On goes some T1 tyre gel, and the Capri is one step closer to being back to its pre-Grand Tour best. With the Grand Tour ending then, let's summarise all of the TV cars that Richard now has in his possession. Let's go right back to the start with Oliver the Opel and the MGB. So that's his first ever proper Top Gear special car and the last car he ever drove on Top Gear. Then compiling in all the cars from the Grand Tour. We've got Martin the Subaru, the Buick Riviera from Lockdown, the Chevy SSR pickup truck, the Peugeot 205 Rallycross car, the Aston DB9 Volante from Sandjob, and now this Capri. Every other car that's in his secret barn, at the cog, or at his house is a private car of Richard's. There have been a couple of additions to that garage recently. One, a 911 Turbo S, and another which you will be seeing on the channel soon. Stay tuned for that. I say the Grand Tour is coming to a close, but if you look at some news reports, they say otherwise. Apparently Amazon are going to redo the Grand Tour with 3 new presenters. Now that seems a very brave call from Amazon, considering the heat that the BBC got for doing the very same thing with Top Gear. So I would like to put it to you guys, who do you think will be the next Grand Tour trio? Or maybe more so, who do you think should be the next Grand Tour trio? Tell me in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I've been Mike, and don't forget to subscribe to DriveTribe. You'll see more of this Capri very soon.